Yokoso to Ani Globe, enjoy. Since then, Baki, now 18 years old, has been challenging the strongest people on Earth, to finally get a chance to fight against his father. The story begins with a little boy named Rumina entering a high school and challenging the strongest student. A few hours later, Rumina is waiting for his opponent until our protagonist, Baki, appears. Rumina holds a pocket knife and thinks Baki's looks too weak to be called the strongest student in the world. Baki takes his jacket off and poses in his fighting stance. After seeing Baki's muscles, Rumina realizes he made a mistake. Despite being short, Baki's muscles make him look 10 times stronger. He starts shaking in fear because he was hoping Baki would go easy on him. But Baki is always prepared to go with his full power. He quickly vanishes into the air and slaps Rumina's butt, projecting him into a shallow river. As the young kid gets back to shore, Baki extends his hand and asks to be friends. Baki noticed the young kid was bullied into a fight by his friends, and encourages him, telling he's 100 times stronger when compared to them. A military guy appears behind them and tells Baki that his father, the strongest man in the world, accepted his challenge. After the military guy leaves, Baki starts immediately training. He starts punching the air, and Rumina realizes he's doing shadow boxing, a training technique where Baki imagines his opponent and fights according to his imagination. Rumina sees Baki's movements and starts to see his imaginary opponent's illusion. It's Iron Michael, the former undefeated boxing champion. But what's more shocking to him is that Baki manages to get hit by this illusion and starts getting injuries all over his body. Baki starts to bleed from his nose and decides to finish the fight. He steps forward and finishes it with a kick. Baki takes the young kid to his house, and Rumina asks him how is he going to fight his father, the strongest man in the world. Baki reveals he has a stronger opponent in his basement. An opponent that can defeat lions, tigers, elephants, orcas, and even cancer can't beat his trainer. Upon reaching there, Rumina sees Baki in his fighting stance and getting immediately projected against the wall. He approaches a table and sees Baki's opponent, a praying mantis. He doesn't understand, how can a small insect be such a formidable opponent? Baki explains a 400-pound tiger can carry about 4 times its weight. But insects can be 100 times stronger than their weight. A praying mantis would easily crush everything in the world if it had a human size. Baki uses his shadow boxing technique to create a 200-pound praying mantis. He uses the same kick from before but gets pushed back. He gets surprised and can barely react to an attack. He tries to kick it again, but the insect gets a hold of him and projects him against the wall, almost destroying it. As the fight continues, Rumina manages to see the insect's huge form. He sees Baki dodge its attacks and kicks its neck, but deals no damage and gets projected again against the ceiling. He gets up and tries to strangle the insect, but it manages to set itself free. Baki decides to restrain its movements but gets projected against the table, making him bleed from the impact. He realizes the insect has no weakness or blind spots and wonders if he should run for his life. But he knows, if he runs away right now, he will also look for an escape when he fights his father. With a smile on his face, he decides to face everything head-on. He lands a hit on the mantis, who immediately backs away. He realizes his opponent is weak against the Torokan technique, a technique created by a monk who saw a praying mantis win a fight against a sparrow. Since then, he used the insect as a guide to creating his fighting technique. With this method, Baki starts to overpower the insect, landing several hits and pushing it back. He starts to adapt his fighting style according to other animals and manages to reach a new level of his strength. The insect starts to only run away, and Baki realizes the praying mantis isn't his opponent anymore, and stops the fight. But now, Baki needs a stronger opponent to train for his final fight against his father. And so, he flies up to America and kidnaps the president to get sent to a prison where the strongest criminal is at. After getting arrested, Baki is sent to the Arizona State Prison, where he meets the prison director and asks him to let him meet Unchained, the strongest person there. The director complies and Baki is escorted throughout the prison to meet him. He notices the tight security with acrylic barriers every 10 meters. He reaches Unchained's cell but is shocked to see it looks like a 5-star hotel room. Baki challenges Unchained, but he tells that he can't. He will fight the second strongest next weekend. And Baki should first become the second strongest to challenge him. Baki ignores his words and punches his face, but Unchained's face didn't even move. He is then taken to his room, where he meets the real Iron Michael. Iron tells him he isn't even top 10 in prison, and reveals he doesn't fight for ranks because everyone's so strong that made him afraid of losing his life. The following morning, he meets number 2, Jun Gevaru, who's also someone privileged by the prison guards. They ignore everything he does and give him a different breakfast from every prisoner. During their meal, Baki's partner tells him that the man in front of number 2 will take on Gevaru. The two go to the gym to fight, but Gevaru quickly defeats him in sumo, his opponent's specialty. Baki then talks to Gevaru, but the guard tells them to not walk and hits Baki with a baton and is taken to solitary. His roommate sneaks in with some food, because Baki had his thumbs cuffed behind his back. The roommate feeds him and explains Gevaru's past. And Baki finds out he also wants to fight Unchained. As they talk, a guard comes into the room. He hits the old man for talking in prison, and Baki interferes. The guard tries to hit Baki, but he kicks him away. And tells that just because his thumbs are cuffed, doesn't mean that he can't fight back. He dislocates his bones and beats the guard up. He pushes the guard off the rail but saves him. Back to his normal prison life. Baki jumps into a conversation between Iron and Gevaru. He tells Guevara that he wants to fight him after his fight with Unchained. Just at that moment, Unchained destroys the door and gets into their room. He talks about their reasons for fighting with Guevara. And says that he has the advantage because he fights for his woman. Baki attempts to interfere in their conversation, but they unite and hit him away, making him pass out. Unchained then reveals a handkerchief given by his girl and smells it like a beta male. But Gevaru spits on it, making Unchained run away and panic like a little girl. Everyone asks if he really has a girlfriend, but they can't tell if it's true. So they think it's a lie to increase Unchained's status. On the fight day, there is no official security on the field. Baki and the others look around anticipating whether Unchained will bring his lover. Unchained arrives carrying a bed with Maria, his lover. The term large won't be enough to describe how she is. They decide to set up a fight just as a game. Each will hold the tip of a bandana while fighting. The first to release the bandana loses. The fight begins with Baki watching Gevaru uppercut Unchained and then repeatedly punching him. Despite that Unchained almost falling, he still holds the bandana with the tip of his finger. He stands up and holds it with his thumb and pinky. Guevara removes the hair from his beard and throws it directly into Oliva's eye. While Oliva is distracted with his eyes, Guevara flips and hits him, but he recovers. He flips and injures Guevara. At this point, Oliva is no longer holding the bandana. He tells Guevara that he isn't interested in holding the bandana. They continue the fight, but Baki is bored. He says he is tired of some men holding a handkerchief, thinking they are fighting, and he will do something. He goes to sleep on Maria's bed and rests beside her Maria while the fight continues. Unchained, who is now excited about the fight, tries to ask Maria what she thinks. And sees Baki sleeping beside his lover. Gevaru kicks Unchained's face and removes a piece of his hair, dipping it directly into Unchained's ears. Unchained gains the upper power and punches Guevara into the wall. Shockingly, Guevara stands up and starts beating Unchained. But in the end, he falls to the ground. Gevaru decides not to give up and stands up, walking toward Unchained. He tells him his muscles are the strongest in the world, and he hits him. After he defeats Unchained, Ogre, Baki's father, arrives. He kidnapped the president to gain access to the prison, just because he heard strong people were fighting. He congratulates Guevara for winning and says Guevara is the strongest man on earth. As they talk, Unchained stands up. He retakes his stance and attacks Guevara. This time, the attack is so severe that Guevara can no longer move. After the fight, Guevara escapes from prison. Later, Baki decides to escape from the prison, not through an escape route but through the front door, just like Unchained. The prison director and some guards with guns surround him. They threaten him, but he reveals he already broke the director's glasses and the guard's shirt buttons as they got closer. They simply didn't notice, because their eyes couldn't match his speed. He forces the director to escort him outside. And then tells them he doesn't want to go and asks them to cuff him back. He tells them he wants to show the strongest fighter that he can also be like him. Unchained arrives angrily and attempts to fight Baki. Baki breaks his cuff to fight and tells him he doesn't care about ranks. As a result of Baki's act, he is taken into solidarity with a handcuff in his hands. Unchained visits and tells him he can never get to his position in prison. And urinates on him, but Baki laughs. Baki replies that he claims he is the biggest, but he can't laugh like him. Unchained leaves, and the old man comes to help Baki eat his food. Following Baki's escape, the inmates changed and started to behave more freely. Therefore, the prison director and Unchained decide to pick a date for his fight against Baki. He goes to Baki's room to inform him about this. But Baki tries to attack Unchained with his feet as he has his thumbs cuffed. Unchained hits Baki through the wall that breaks through another cell. Now that Unchained is ready to fight, Baki dislocates his bones and removes the cuffs. The fight starts with Baki hitting Unchained, but the punch doesn't affect him. Unchained replies by dragging him through the wall and breaking through it. Baki is dragged until he breaks through 2 other cells. Unchained punches Baki, who's projected against the door, destroying it. And he falls to the ground from several feet height. Unchained jumps down, and Baki tries to kick him, but he holds his foot. Baki uses his other foot to kick him several times until he's thrown away. While laying on the floor, Baki starts to feel the same way he felt when he fought his father. Mentally, his body melts, and he comes back together and stands up. His muscles contract so hard that people start to see a devil's face on his back. Unchained tries to attack, but Baki is so fast that he already knocked him down. The guards watch the replay and see Baki knocked him down in 0.1 second. Unchained gets up while stating Baki became strong inside the prison. Suddenly, Unchained starts shrinking into a ball. He knows Baki already defeated someone with that technique and urges him to try it again. Baki attacks, but Unchained swallows him up and then spits him in a weak state. He asks Baki to declare the fight over since there is no referee in their game. But Baki refuses and attempts to hit him again. Unchained attempts to shrink into a ball again, but Baki stops him. He asks him if he takes him for a fool. He then hits him, telling him he is using him to practice defeating his father. And they should fight like men. Iron comes out of his solitary and yells at Baki that fighting Unchained is like asking to lose his life. However, Baki tells him that if they are telling him not to do it, it means it's worth the fight. He goes fist-to-fist fight with Unchained, both taking multiple hits and losing their precious blood. But Baki starts to overpower his opponent, putting him against the wall as they keep throwing punches at each other. Baki gets punched, losing several teeth. But he gets back up and gives Unchained a massive header. He then goes for his massive and last punch, breaking the wall. But when Baki lifts his head, he sees nobody in front of him. Unchained was already knocked out before the last punch. On the next day, Baki is released after becoming the strongest in the prison. And now sets to face his father. So what did you think of this movie? Leave it in the comments below, and if you liked the video please like and subscribe for more Oni Globe recaps. Sayonara.